Life's a funny thing, isn't it? One minute you're on top of the world, and the next you're wondering why folks are looking at you sideways. But let me tell you something. It ain't always about what life throws at you. More often than not, it's about what you're throwing out there yourself. You see, respect isn't just handed to you on a silver platter. No, sir, it's earned. And sadly, many of us are sabotaging ourselves without even realizing it. We're digging our own graves, so to speak, with habits that push people away faster than a cat runs from water. Today, we're going to dive deep into 4 awful habits that make people disrespect you. And let me tell you, these aren't just minor missteps. These are full-blown red flag waving, siren blaring habits that'll have folks running for the hills if you don't nip them in the bud. Now, I'm not here to sugarcoat things. That's not my style, never has been. I'm here to give it to you straight because that's what you deserve. That's what you need if you want to turn things around and start commanding the respect you ought to have. So, buckle up, Buttercup. We're in for a wild ride. I habit, overpromising and underdelivering. Let's start with a doozy, shall we? Overpromising and underdelivering. Oh boy, if I had a nickel for every time I've seen this one in action, I'd be richer than King Midas. You know the type? Always ready with a grand promise, a spectacular pledge. I'll have that report on your desk by Monday morning. They say on Friday afternoon. Come Monday, they're nowhere to be found. And that report? Well, it's about as real as a unicorn prancing through Times Square. Now, don't get me wrong. Ambition is a beautiful thing. Setting high goals, reaching for the stars. That's what separates the wheat from the chaff. But there's a fine line between ambition and delusion, and crossing that line is a surefire way to lose respect faster than you can say, I'll do it tomorrow. See, when you consistently overpromise and underdeliver, you're not just disappointing people. You're teaching them not to trust you. You're showing them that your word isn't worth the air it takes to speak it. And let me tell you, in this world, your word is your bond. It's the currency of trust. And once you've squandered it, getting it back is harder than trying to nail jelly to a tree. Back in my day, we had a saying, under-promise and over-deliver. Now that's a philosophy worth its weight in gold. When you consistently do more than you say you will, people start to sit up and take notice. They start to rely on you, to respect you, because they know that when you say something, you mean it. And when you promise something, you'll move heaven and earth to make it happen. But the overpromiser, they're like a broken record, always skipping back to the same old tune. I'll do better next time, they say. This time will be different, they insist. But actions speak louder than words, folks. And their actions are screaming louder than a freight train whistle. So how do we fix this? It's simple, but it ain't easy. Start by being realistic with your commitments. If you think something will take a week, don't promise it in 3 days. If you're not sure you can handle a task, be honest about it. It's better to say, I'm not sure, than to make a promise you can't keep. And here's the kicker. When you do make a promise, move mountains to keep it. Treat every commitment like it's a matter of life and death. Because in the world of respect, it just might be. Remember, folks, it's not about being perfect. We all slip up sometimes. But it's about being consistent. It's about building a reputation as someone who follows through, someone who can be counted on. Because at the end of the day, that's what earns you respect. Habit, complaining? Now let's move on to our second habit. And boy, is it a doozy. Chronic complaining? You know the type I'm talking about. The ires of the world, always ready with a woe is me story, seeing the cloud in every silver lining. These folks, they've got a PhD in problem spotting, but they've never even taken an introductory course in problem solving. They can tell you everything that's wrong with the world, their job, their life, but ask them what they're doing to fix it. Crickets, my friends. Nothing but crickets. Now don't get me wrong. Life isn't always a bed of roses. We all face challenges. We all have bad days. Heck, sometimes we have bad weeks or even bad years. But there's a world of difference between acknowledging a problem and wallowing in it. You see, chronic complainers, they're like emotional vampires. They suck the life out of every room they enter. They drain the energy from every conversation they join. And let me tell you, nothing makes people lose respect for you faster than being a constant source of negativity. Think about it. Would you respect someone who's always moaning about their problems but never lifting a finger to solve them? Would you admire someone who can spot a flaw from a mile away but can't see an opportunity if it danced the Macarena right in front of them? Of course not. I remember a fellow I used to know. Let's call him Grumbling Gary. Now, Gary was a nice enough chap, but boy, could he complain. If it was raining, he'd moan about the wet. If the sun was shining, he'd grumble about the heat. If you gave him $1 million, he'd probably complain about the tax bill. At first, people would listen sympathetically. They'd offer advice, try to cheer him up. But as time went on, you could see the change. Eyes would glaze over when Gary started talking. People would suddenly remember urgent appointments when he approached. He became the human equivalent of a do not disturb sign. And that's the thing about chronic complaining. It doesn't just push people away. It erodes their respect for you. Because respect isn't just about liking someone, it's about admiring them. It's about seeing qualities in them that you aspire to. And let's face it, nobody aspires to be a perpetual pessimist. So how do we turn this ship around? Well, it starts with a change in perspective. Instead of focusing on what's wrong, start looking for what's right. Instead of complaining about problems, start proposing solutions. Now, I'm not saying you should ignore issues or pretend everything's peachy when it's not. That's not realistic and it's not helpful. But there's a big difference between identifying a problem and endlessly harping on it. When you face a challenge, ask yourself, what can I do about this? Even if you can't solve the whole problem, there's usually something you can do to improve the situation. And let me tell you, people respect action a whole lot more than they respect complaints. And here's another tip. Practice gratitude. Every day, find something to be thankful for. It might be something big, like a promotion at work. Or it might be something small, like a perfect cup of coffee or a beautiful sunset. The more you focus on the good things in your life, the less room there is for complaints. Remember, folks, optimism is contagious. When you approach life with a positive attitude, people want to be around you. They respect your resilience, your ability to find the silver lining. And that respect, it's worth its weight in gold. Lack of personal accountability. All right, folks, let's dive into habit number 3. And this one's a real doozy. We're talking about a lack of personal accountability. Now, if you want to see respect vanish faster than a snowball in the Sahara, this is your ticket. You see, personal accountability is like the backbone of respect. Without it, everything else just crumbles. It's about owning your actions, your decisions, and yes, even your mistakes. But some folks, they treat accountability like it's a hot potato, always trying to pass it off to someone else. These are the people who always have an excuse. The dog ate their homework. The traffic made them late. The economy tanked their business. It's always something or someone else's fault. Never theirs. Sound familiar? Now, let me tell you a little story. Back in my younger days, I knew a fella we'll call Blame It on Bob. Old Bob. He was a master of dodging responsibility. If a project went south, it was because his team let him down. If he missed a deadline, it was because someone else didn't give him what he needed. If his car broke down, well, you can bet it was the mechanic's fault. At first, people would buy into Bob's excuses. They'd nod sympathetically, maybe even feel a bit sorry for him. But as time went on, something changed. People started to see through the act. They realized that in Bob's world, he was always the victim, never the victor. And you know what happened? People lost respect for him. They stopped trusting him with important tasks. They stopped believing his promises because they knew that if anything went wrong, Bob would be the first to point the finger and the last to step up. You see, that's what a lack of accountability does. It erodes trust, it destroys credibility, and without trust and credibility, respect is about as sturdy as a house of cards in a windstorm. But here's the kicker. Taking responsibility, even when it's tough, even when it means admitting you messed up, that builds respect. It shows integrity. It shows maturity. It shows leadership. I remember one time, I made a pretty big mistake on a project. It would have been easy to blame it on faulty information or unclear instructions. But instead, I stood up in front of the whole team and said, I messed up. Here's what happened, here's what I learned, and here's how I'm going to fix it. You know what happened? People didn't lose respect for me. If anything, they respected me more because they saw that I was willing to own my mistakes and learn from them. So how do we cultivate this habit of accountability? Well, it starts with a simple shift in mindset. Instead of asking who's to blame, when something goes wrong, ask what can I learn from this? Instead of making excuses, make improvement. And here's a big one. Stop saying, I'll try. I'll try is just a wimpy way of giving yourself an out. It's like saying, I'll do it, unless it gets too hard or inconvenient. Instead, say, I will, and then do everything in your power to follow through. Remember, folks, accountability isn't about beating yourself up when things go wrong. It's about taking ownership of your life. It's about recognizing that while you can't control everything that happens to you, you can control how you respond. And let me tell you, there's nothing more respectable than someone who takes life by the horns, who owns their mistakes as readily as their successes, who's always striving to be better today than they were yesterday. So next time you're tempted to pass the buck or make an excuse, remember, the respect you save may be your own by consistency in words and action. All right, folks, we've made it to our fourth and final habit, and let me tell you, it's a doozy. We're talking about inconsistency between words and actions, or as I like to call it, the say one thing, do another syndrome. Now, if you want to see respect evaporate faster than morning dew on a hot summer day, this is your golden ticket. Because nothing, and I mean nothing, erodes respect quite like a person whose actions don't match their word. You see, integrity isn't just a fancy word you throw around at board meetings. It's the very foundation of respect. It's about being the same person Monday through Sunday in public and in private. It's about walking your talk, practicing what you preach, and any other cliche you can think of. That means do what you say you're going to do. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you've got a boss who's always preaching about the importance of work-life balance. Family first, they say. Don't sacrifice your personal life for work, they insist. Sounds great, right? But then this same boss is sending emails at midnight, calling you on weekends, and guilt-tripping you for taking a vacation day. How much would you respect a leader like that? Or how about the friend who's always talking about the importance of honesty, but you catch them in little white lies all the time? Or the colleague who preaches teamwork but always takes credit for group successes and blames others for failures? You see, inconsistency is like a slow poison for respect. It might not kill it instantly, but over time it eats away at the very foundation until there's nothing left. I remember a time when I was guilty of this myself. I used to tell my team how important it was to stay updated with industry trends. Always be learning, I'd say. But then I realized I hadn't picked up a book or attended a seminar in months. I was so busy telling others what to do that I'd forgotten to walk the walk myself. That was a wake-up call for me. I realized that if I wanted to be respected as a leader, I needed to lead by example. Not just some of the time, but all the time. Because here's the thing, folks, people are watching. They're paying attention not just to what you say, but what you do. And when there's a mismatch between the two, it creates cognitive dissonance. It makes people question your authenticity, your reliability, your integrity. How do we fix this? Well, it starts with self-awareness. Take a good hard look at yourself. Are there areas in your life where your actions don't align with your words? Are you preaching values that you're not living up to? Next, it's about making a conscious effort to align your actions with your words. If you say family is important, make sure you're actually making time for your loved ones. If you claim to value punctuality, make sure you're not the one always running late to meetings. And here's a big one. Be willing to admit when you fall short, because let's face it, we're all human. We all have moments of weakness, times when we don't live up to our own standards. The key is to acknowledge it, learn from it, and do better next time. Remember, consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means striving to be the best version of yourself day in and day out. It means aligning your actions with your values, your behavior with your beliefs. And let me tell you, when you achieve that alignment, when your words and actions are in harmony, that's when you command real respect. That's when people look at you and see someone of substance, someone they can trust, someone they can believe in. Because at the end of the day, respect isn't about grand gestures or lofty speeches. It's about the small, consistent actions that show who you really are. It's about integrity in the little things, because those little things add up to define your character. So my friends, as we wrap up this journey through these 4 awful habits, I want you to remember this. Respect isn't something you can demand. It's something you earn day by day, action by action, choice by choice. It's about keeping your promises, even when it's inconvenient. It's about facing challenges with positivity instead of complaints. It's about taking responsibility for your actions, good and bad. And it's about ensuring that your walk matches your talk. These aren't always easy things to do. They require constant vigilance, self-reflection, and a willingness to change. But let me tell you, the payoff is worth it. Because when you command respect, doors open, opportunities appear, people want to work with you, to be around you, to learn from you. So starting today, I challenge you to take a good hard look at yourself. Are you guilty of any of these respect-killing habits? If so, don't beat yourself up about it. We've all been there. The important thing is to recognize it and commit to change. Remember, it's never too late to turn things around. Every day is a new opportunity to earn respect, to be a person of integrity, to make a positive impact on the world around you. And let me tell you, there's no greater feeling than knowing that you've earned the genuine respect of others, not through manipulation or force, but through consistent, principled action. So go out there and be the kind of person you'd respect. Be the kind of leader you'd want to follow. Be the kind of friend you'd want to have. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. This all sounds great in theory, but how do I put it into practice? How do I break these bad habits and start building respect? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because talking about change is one thing, but actually making it happen, that's where the rubber meets the road. So let's break it down, shall we? Let's talk about how we can turn these respect-killing habits into respect-building behaviors. From mind habit, overpromising, to realistic commitment. Remember our first habit? Overpromising and underdelivering. The quick fix here might seem to be to simply promise less, but that's not what we're after. We don't want to lower our standards or shrink our ambitions. No, sir. We want to aim high, but we want to do it smart. Start by being more mindful of your commitments. Before you say yes to something, take a moment to really think it through. Ask yourself, I have the time, resources, and skills to deliver on this promise. If the answer is anything less than a resounding yes, then it's time to recalibrate. Maybe you need to negotiate a more realistic timeline. Maybe you need to clarify the scope of the project. Or maybe you need to be upfront about potential challenges or limitations. Whatever it is, being honest and transparent from the get-go is always better than making promises you can't keep. And here's a little trick I've learned over the years. Add a buffer. If you think something will take 3 days, promise it in 4. That way, if everything goes smoothly, you deliver early and look like a rock star. If unexpected issues pop up, you've got some wiggle room. Remember, the goal here isn't to sandbag or set low expectations. It's about building a track record of reliability. It's about becoming known as someone who consistently delivers on their word. Transforming habit trauma. From chronic complaining to constructive problem solve. Now let's tackle our second habit. Chronic complaining. This one's a tough nut to crack because let's face it, sometimes complaining feels good. It's like scratching an itch, but just like scratching an itch, the relief is temporary and you might end up doing more harm than good. The key here is to shift from a problem-focused mindset to a solution-focused one. Next time you're tempted to complain, try this instead. For every problem you identify, challenge yourself to come up with at least one potential solution. Can't change the situation, then change your perspective. Look for the silver lining, the lesson, the opportunity for growth. It's not about being naively optimistic, it's about being constructively realistic. And here's another powerful tool: gratitude. Make it a daily habit to identify 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be big things. Maybe it's a warm cup of coffee, a kind word from a colleague. The more you train your mind to look for the positive, the less room there is for needless complaining. Remember, the goal isn't to never acknowledge problems or challenges. It's about approaching them in a way that's constructive rather than destructive. It's about being the person who brings solutions to the table, not just complaints. Mastering habit free. From blame shifting to personal accountability. All right, now let's dive into our third habit, lack of personal accountability. This one's a real game changer, folks, because when you master this, you're not just earning respect, you're taking control of your life. The first step here is to adopt what I like to call the mirror mindset. Whenever something goes wrong, before you point fingers or make excuses, look in the mirror. Ask yourself, what was my role in this? What could I have done differently? This isn't about beating yourself up. It's about honest self-reflection. It's about recognizing that while you can't control everything that happens to you, you can always control how you respond. Here's a powerful phrase to add to your vocabulary. I take responsibility for that. Practice saying it even in small situations. Spill your coffee. Don't blame the cup or the person who bumped into you. Just say, I take responsibility for that, and clean it up. The more you practice taking responsibility in small ways, the more natural it becomes to take responsibility in bigger situations. And here's the kicker. Taking responsibility isn't just about owning up to mistakes. It's also about owning your successes. Don't downplay your achievements or attribute them all to luck. Recognize your hard work and skills, because true accountability is about owning all of your actions and their outcomes, good and bad, and conquering habit. From inconsistency to integrity. And finally, let's address our fourth habit, inconsistency between words and actions. This one's all about integrity, folks. It's about being whole and undivided, the same person in all situations. Start by doing a values check. What are the principles you claim to stand for? Write them down. Then, for each one, ask yourself, how am I living this value in my daily life? Where am I falling short? This isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. It's about making sure that your actions are in harmony with your stated values and beliefs. One powerful way to build consistency is to make public commitments. Share your goals with others. Not in a boastful way, but in a way that invites accountability. When you tell someone you're going to do something, you're more likely to follow through. And remember, consistency is about the small things as much as the big things. It's about showing up on time, following through on promises, treating people with respect even when you're having a bad day. It's about being the same person in the boardroom and the break room, on stage and behind the scenes. It's putting it all together. Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about 4 major habits that kill respect and how to overcome them. But here's the thing, this isn't a one and done deal. It's not like you can snap your fingers and instantly become a highly respected individual. No, earning and maintaining respect is a lifelong journey. It's about consistent daily choices. It's about constantly striving to be better, to do better. Think of it like tending a garden. You don't plant the seeds and then walk away expecting a bountiful harvest. You need to water regularly, pull out weeds, protect against pests. It takes constant care and attention. The same goes for cultivating respect. You need to consistently make choices that align with your values. You need to regularly check yourself for those respect-killing habits we talked about. You need to be willing to admit when you've fallen short and commit to doing better. But let me tell you, the rewards are worth it. When you live a life of integrity, when you're known as someone who keeps their word, who faces challenges head-on, who takes responsibility for their actions, and who consistently walks their talk. That's when you become a person of influence. That's when people seek out your advice, value you, your opinion, want to work with you and learn from you. That's when you start to make a real difference in the world around you. And isn't that what we're all after? To make a positive impact? To leave the world a little better than we found it? So my friends, as we wrap up this talk, I want to leave you with a challenge. Starting today, commit to being more mindful of these 4 habits. Catch yourself when you're about to overpromise, when you're tempted to complain, when you want to shift blame, or when your actions don't align with your words. And when you catch yourself, because you will, we all do, don't beat yourself up. Instead, see it as an opportunity to make a better choice, to build a little more respect. Remember, every interaction is a chance to earn respect. Every challenge is an opportunity to demonstrate your character. Every day is a new page in the story of your life. So what story do you want to tell? What kind of person do you want to be known as? Me? I want to be known as someone who kept their word, someone who faced challenges with a positive attitude, someone who took responsibility for their actions, someone whose words and deeds always align. In short, I want to be someone worthy of respect, not for my own ego, but because I believe that's how we make the world a better place. One respectful interaction at a time, one person of integrity at a time. So, my friends, are you with me? Are you ready to kick these awful habits to the curb and start building the respect you deserve? Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being authentic, being accountable, and always striving to be better. You've got this. I believe in you. Now go out there and show the world what you're made of. Show them a person of integrity, a person of their word, a person worthy of respect. Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. Not the money you make, not the titles you hold, but the impact you have on the people around you. The respect you earn, not through manipulation or force, but through consistent, principled. That's the kind of success that truly lasts. That's the kind of success that truly matters. So here's to you, my friends. Here's to your journey towards becoming the most respected version of yourself. It won't always be easy, but I promise you, it will always be worth it. Thank you for your time. And remember, respect starts with you. Make it count.